Welcome to tacosandgeeks.com. Justin and Sean here, and today we're going to be doing something different. This is not technically the hour because we're not going to be doing a whole hour of this, but we did want to talk about certain trailers that dropped recently during the Super Bowl and after the Super Bowl. So today we're going to be talking about two big trailers and a certain Fantastic Four announcement, and we are going to be talking about the X-Men 97 trailer, Deadpool and Wolverine, and what we think of the Fantastic Four casting. So we're gonna start off with the trailers first, and of course a trailer that I'm really excited about, X-Men 97. Just to give you a brief history of my comic book origins, my first superhero comic ever, or my first comic book ever, and I think I said this before a couple of years ago, was an X-Men comic, and it was an actual X-Men comic from a free X-Men comic that I got from Pizza Hut. And this is where, in the height of X-Men, the animated series, which is to me, to this day, one of the top three superhero anime series of all time. Of course, Batman TAS being number one and Spider-Man being number two. And, of course, X-Men TAS. But now we have X-Men 97 because 97 is the year that the series ended, and this is a continuation of it. And they just dropped a new trailer, and Sean, man, I was hyped.
I mean, one of the things, like, I remember this is like straight after school, like cartoons, and I think X-Men 97. Okay, so X-Men started in 93?
Yeah, 93 or 94.
Okay, so
it's 5 seasons for sure.
Okay, so if it's 93, 94, 95, 96,
probably
okay.
92.
So 92. So we're talking like probably my if it's 92, it's like my sophomore year of high school. Like that's when like I had a little like friends, a little geek club that we used to just chill with. We used to talk about our stuff, and that was definitely the main story. Like also like one of the things we used to talk about, like at that time they had like for Sega Genesis, I think they had a X-Men video game that came out that was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And this was like the biggest thing we talked about every day at lunch, because we all, everybody who's in high school, you got your little friends, same lunch period. And we used to sit down and just say, yo, this thing would be great. And I remember we used to talk about who would play in the live action for this. And to tell you, years later, after looking back, the only thing we got right was Patrick Stewart. Because there were so many actors that we picked that never even have never played in any Marvel or DC films. The only one we actually got right was Patrick Stewart playing Professor X. But when it comes to that cartoon, it was so groundbreaking for us back then. Like this was just the cartoon. And I mean, I know everybody talks about it, which is really crazy. Like that shot of Rogue in front of Apocalypse is like iconic. I do like a lot of people. Well, I mean, I know a lot of people like, oh my God, you guys are such perverts. Like, but you don't understand for like high school kids like that. That was the pose. I think I was watching an IG story where somebody was talking about that pose on there. He was like, there are a lot of Instagram models that recreate that pose. Like that is it. And I think the biggest joke and disappointment he had was that when they show one of the previews for the new X-Men comic, for the X-Men the 97 is that Rogue is kind of missing that. And like he's kind of like she's kind of missing it. So I think some people are disappointed, but I think overall I'm really excited to see where this picks up.
And just to do like a mini trailer breakdown, one of the things that I've seen from other YouTubers nobody's really talking about is Jean is pregnant in this.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, there's a last shot, like she's in a referee type of outfit, and there's a huge 9-month baby bump. So this is literally, I'm like, oh, okay, Jean's pregnant, and for me, it's such a groundbreaking show for me just growing up because I was one of those Fox kids. I was the one who, me and my brother, we used to come home from school, sit down when we watched the X-Men on Saturdays and Saturdays, and then sometimes they rerun it on the weekdays. And season 1, the whole Sentinel saga was just completely fired. And then you got season 2, you got Apocalypse. You had the oh my gosh, who's the who's the people in the sewers? I forgot.
Oh, the Morlocks.
The Morlocks. Thank you. We had the Morlocks. We had Mr. Sinister. They did the most, and everybody to this day, the most proper adaptation so far of the Phoenix Saga was done by this.
I mean, that's true. And I mean, also, one of the things that was good was like, if you remember, the very first episode was an episode with Morph.
Yeah.
And when you thought Morph was killed, I think was it?
Yeah.
Seasons later, he returns.
Yes, he did.
And he's different. And I'm like, this was an obscure character that you didn't always see. And I mean, he was different how they portrayed him in the cartoon, because I think in the comic book, he didn't have a face. Like, he was, he was faceless. And in this one, he might have, listen, this is a show that is so long ago. I think he took on the form of a specific human face. And one of the things I was extremely happy about with this is that they are bringing Morph back. And I mean, I know there's a little backlash because one of the things I hate seeing online is like, X-Men is woke. I mean, but you have to understand, like, Morph can morph into anything or any person he wants to. So Morph being queer or non-binary or anything else in there, it's not far-fetched. And I mean,
He's a shapeshifter.
Yeah, I mean, you have to also realize, like, X-Men, we do remember that X-Men is an allegory for, like, racism.
And civil rights.
Yeah, and everything else. I mean, even though we did say the same thing about Black Panther, where it was a comparison of Malcolm and Martin. I mean, that's a truer comparison with Professor X and Magneto.
Exactly.
And so to say that, oh, it's so woke, then you've never read an X-Men comic and you've never sat down and really invested time in. And that's one of the biggest problems with what I've had a problem with, and I think we'll expand more during the hour about how the geek community has turned into more of a popularity thing instead of people like kind of getting it right, because you have people who aren't really down with it. They're just for the popular superheroes. And so when they see something that's not to their that's not normal to them, it's always, oh, it's woke. No, the X-Men have always been groundbreaking. I mean, if you remember, and I'm not sure, whoever watches this can correct me, didn't the X-Men have like it was a big splash issue of like the first openly gay marriage they had on there? So they had a big splash issue about that. So to say, and this is like back, like this is not too many years ago, probably early 2010s. So if you are complaining about how the X-Men are now and what you're seeing in X-Men 97, like, you obviously didn't read the comic books and you haven't been a part of the comics in a while.
And it's funny because people also forget about a certain Nightcrawler episode where it was very, very heavy on religion. And, he was talking about God, he was talking about Jesus and all this other stuff. And these same people are calling this woke, had no issues with that particular episode. And it's just like you can't. You have to understand the source material. Like Sean says, like it seems like some people who constantly call these things woke have never, and this is usually the case, have never picked up a book or never really seen this has been here for a long time. First of all, like Sean was saying, Morph and Mystique are shapeshifters. They can change into anything. So there is a non-binary element to it because there's no specific set thing.
And they're biologically they can change into whoever they're changing
want to
into.
Be.
Yeah.
And but just back to the before we go into the Deadpool trailer, I'm so hyped for this, especially now that Magneto at the end is just like he owns everything that Xavier left him. So it's just like, oh, how is this going to work? Is he going to be running the X-Men now? And it was good to see Jubilee again, Wolverine. I think we saw a little bit glimpse of Bishop in there. So all the main cast is, all the main characters that we got from 97. And thank you. It's so nice to see Cyclops once again, a leader, goddammit. Finally.
I mean, one of the only things I will say in criticism, okay, glad to see everybody's back. Hypest thing I saw was Gambit charging up Wolverine's claws.
Yeah.
Fire. Complete fire. seeing everybody come back. I mean, if anybody has never read the comic book, there's a point in the comic book, and anybody who's a New Mutants fan, like Magneto was running this. Charles Xavier was gone.
Yeah.
Magneto was running the school for the gifted, and I mean, he was definitely the headmaster of the school during Fall of the Mutants. And anybody who's ever got a chance to read that comic book, you'll see Magneto has been around for a while running Xavier's, because everybody just thinks of Xavier and Magneto as just like mortal enemies. No, they're good friends who just have two ideologies on how to deal with the mutant threat. Xavier wants humans and mutants to coexist. Magneto's like, yo, we're the superior ones. Like, yo, they need to acquiesce to us. Can't wait to see it. I know you're excited to see Cyclops as a leader, but like I had that cringe moment where he was like, "To me, my X-Men." I was like, "Oh, shut up." I was like, "Oh, stop." I was like,
and final thing before we get into Deadpool, as I joked before we recorded this, I'm gonna say publicly, and you can see this in the comment sections of most of the trailers. If this show does not start off, if the first things you do not hear is previously on X-Men, you have failed us.
facts.
Okay? This needs to start off previously on X-Men. That's all I gotta say.
Facts. So I know you want to get into, because I'm excited to get into it, because the Deadpool trailer. And one of the things I'm gonna say is like, I have waited, like I think, here's the funny thing. I think we saw the very first Deadpool movie. We went to a convention. Was it Boston? We went somewhere where we were staying overnight. And we drove down. And I know it was me, you, Young, and it was the opening weekend of Deadpool. And I remember you and I went, and I think it was you, me, maybe Anthony.
Yeah,
went.
Anthony was there.
Yeah, and we went to see it, and I was like, this was like the best superhero movie at that time. I was like, yo, this is so fire. And I remember saying, like, I hope they continue with this. I hope, I was kind of like, at the time, did Disney have their hands on Marvel at the time?
Yep.
But I was kind of...
Oh, no, Disney had their own Marvel universe. Yeah.
And I was like, this will never work because this is so rated R. And I was like, you can't make Deadpool PG-13 or anything else. And I mean, they did a Deadpool 2, and it was PG-13. And I think that was during the time where Disney was acquiring the Fox entities, and they were bringing them back into the fold. And they wanted to test to see how that would do, and it did excellent. The Fred Savage thing was hilarious with it, but we waited way too long for this. But what I will say is, like, it is right on time with us getting them Deadpool to reboot the MCU. I think a lot of us, whether you've been happy with the MCU or you've been disappointed in it, I think this shows you that Marvel had the MCU, Kevin Feige and everybody heard you. This, I think, would be the best way to reset it.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do... I hope they do an excellent job with it. I was in the impression it's coming out next year, but it's coming out this July.
Yeah.
And
it was supposed to be out last year.
Yeah, so I am triple excited to see Wolverine in it. Trailer was amazing, especially that end part where he goes, "It's you," and he pops the claws, and he goes, "Oh no," and they cut away from it before he stabs him. I think this is... there are a lot of rumors. I think he's either killing off the Fox universe, but I think he's resetting the entire timeline. I think, like I said, whatever I'm saying, it's not definite. Don't quote. I'm not there.
These are theories.
These are theories. I think he's there to reset the MCU so that everything that's coming in from the Fantastic Four to the X-Men, that they're on different Earths, that they've always been there. It's just that we're going to erase the main timeline. We're going to erase all these other branches, and there's going to be one main timeline.
Yeah.
So, and everybody's always been there. I think that's why the Fantastic Four is going to be set in the 70s or the 60s.
60s, yeah.
In the 60s, so that, like, we can backtrack. We have to go back to look and see, when did we see the Fantastic Four? They've always been there. But that trailer was amazing, especially the Disney joke where when he talks about pegging,
yes,
and he goes, even though this has never been on Disney, he said, but I'm used to it, and he smiled, and I just said, that alone is going to make me buy my ticket early. It's just the joke when he looked at the camera, and I know there are some Disney executives cringing as he said that, but they're like, we got to let him. You gotta let him do it.
This is already going to be $1 billion.
Yep.
I mean, for me, I think what I'm most excited about is the culmination. Same thing that Sony did with Disney with No Way Home. It was the culmination of all those Spider-Man movies. This is a culmination of all the Fox movies, specifically X-Men. So we are going to be seeing, Hugh Jackman's, that Fox's X-Men back. Hopefully, most likely for the last hurrah. We don't know.
I think he's got one more hurrah with Secret Wars. I think that's when it ends.
So I guess Secret Wars will be the last hurrah for everybody. For me, like what is it, TVA? That shit was hilarious. The fact that they were able to incorporate his ending cutscene of him going back in time and using that as the main plot for this one, I thought that was a very smart thing to do. And the fact that you see him, there's glimpses of, if people pause it, you actually see an Easter egg of the Secret Wars comic with Doctor Doom on the cover. And, so that was intentional of what they're actually going to be doing here. I think obviously all this is leading up to Secret Wars. But for me, what I really think is going to be a really great thing is just I'm waiting to see Hugh Jackman in that Wolverine costume. They teased it in a deleted scene of the Wolverine where he had the the orange? No, it was the brown one, the brown suit.
Yeah.
And now we're getting the yellow suit, and some rumors are saying that this is the X-Men 97 Wolverine. We don't know yet, but I think just the fact that he is finally in that suit looks good too. And they're holding, not to sound like Deadpool, but they're not gonna blow their load right now, showing you everything Hugh Jackman right now. You're gonna have to wait to get the Jack.
Pause, bro. Pause.
It's Deadpool. I have to be in the spirit of Deadpool, but you're gonna have to wait to see the clips and everything else. Of course, we've seen pictures of it, but I think they're probably gonna wait for the second trailer, or they're gonna give us just a little bit of a 10-second look towards that last trailer because it's almost here already. But I'm really, really excited about this. I'm curious to see what other cameos we're gonna get, but just to see if is it going to be Deadpool kills the Fox universe or Deadpool kills the MCU? So I'm curious to see what's gonna happen here.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Deadpool kills the MCU, but I think he's killing the timeline branches because of course, with the whole debacle with everything going on, we didn't have a clear picture of how everything is going to work out. And I think that becomes an issue, and we didn't know how exactly they were going to fix it. And I think they had this plan in there for a while, but having Secret Wars pop out and revamping everything is going to be a perfect thing for the Fox universe. I think it'll answer a lot of questions, and it'll stop everybody from their complaints. And, I think they'll right the ship because right now, I'm a huge Marvel fan, and I'll openly admit, it just seemed like Marvel was going in a weird direction.
Yeah.
And we couldn't figure out where they were going. But I think now, they're kind of going to right the ship. And we'll see. Because, of course, people will have their complaints later about Deadpool. But I don't think you can have very many complaints. I think Deadpool... I applaud Ryan Reynolds for keeping Deadpool the way he always sees it. He's a wisecracking, irreverent character who breaks the third wall or fourth wall. Sorry, and he talks to the audience. He lets it know what's going on. We see it in the trailers, and I think this is going to be the movie.
He's Marvel's Jesus.
Yeah, well said. When he walked out, he said, I'm Marvel's Jesus. I was just like, oh God, why can't this movie come out? But I'm happy it's during the summer because spring or whatever, I think the first one came out in spring. I'm really looking forward to this. And I think MCU is taking a better approach and not putting out so many movies. I think us getting one movie this year and maybe a show or two is a perfect balance. So I'm happy with it.
And it's funny because everything we're getting from Marvel this year is X-Men related.
Yes.
Which is really great. And shout out to them because they actually went back to the drawing board for Born Again. And there's been pictures shown online of the main cast all back.
Perfect.
So, you have Page back, you have Foggy back, you have Kingpin back, you have oh my gosh, Punisher's rumored to be coming back as well. So everything seems to be in line with pieces. Jessica Jones's she teased her jacket recently. So
and it'd be good to see
yeah.
with the switch of the timeline, with the timeline actually being reset, that we don't have to ask ourselves like, but didn't this happen in the stories of Deadpool? Didn't it? No, the timeline's been reset, so nothing is happening, so we can continue from that point on. So I think this is going to be a great reset. This is going to be good.
And we're going to go into our last topic, and that is the Fantastic Forecasting, which has been receiving mixed reviews, actually. A lot of people, mainly, probably just one casting, everybody's kind of like, and it may be just due to oversaturation, which is Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. I personally think he'll do a good job, but I also feel the Pedro fatigue. I mean, he's already in Mandalorian. He's already Joel in The Last of Us. Yep. I mean, he's touching a lot of geek properties here, so he's pretty much the Rock of the geek world right now.
I mean, not the Rock. He's becoming the geek Jesus at this point. he is the geek Jesus. Like, he's in everything. So, like, I kind of like.
Get his money, man. Get your money, Pedro.
Yeah, for real. Like,
that's all I gotta say with that. Get your money, but I'm very happy with Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cast is fine. I don't like not everybody on that cast. I'm like familiar with all their work, but I think the cast is fine. I think there's one thing I will give Marvel. They've had excellent casting.
Yeah,
like they don't have like this. Like they pick the wrong people. It's this person doesn't work out. If somebody doesn't work out, it's so rare that you don't even remember. So I think this is going to be good.
And the thing is, everybody's still wondering. It's like Doom has to be one of the most important castings Marvel's going to have to do.
Yeah. Because
Doom is such a huge character. And I seen an article, I think it was on Screen Rant recently, where it was either IGN or Screen, I think it was IGN, where they said that they should just hire someone to do the body, like how they did with Darth Vader, and just get a voice actor to voice Doom. What do you think about that?
I don't think so, because you need to have Doom before he's disfigured. I mean, to shout out Fox, like the way they did the first Fantastic Four, it wasn't a good movie. The very first one wasn't a good movie, but how they handled Doom and they handled everything else works out perfectly. But I think if you have like just a body and a voice, it's not going to work, because I think you still need to, in the show, establish Dr. Doom's relationship. I mean, granted, after the first Fox one, after like Fantastic Four 2, I don't think they did a good job after that. That last one was
you mean Rise of Silver Surfer?
No, Rise of Silver Surfer was good. Like, we love.
Oh, you mean Fan Four Stick?
Yeah, like Fan Four Stick. Like it, I think it was like, you know, Michael B. Jordan. This is not your fault. Like, in the cast, it's not your fault. But that Dr. Doom that look was terrible. And
the aluminum foil Doom.
Yeah, and the story behind him being stuck there was kind of stupid. I think everything else started to work, like how the Thing was, and Johnny Storm and everything else, and Sue Richards. I think the casting with that wasn't terrible, but I just think like everything else with that did not work. So we, like I said, we'll see. I think this will work. I think we'll get a better cohesive Fantastic Four, and they'll be there going forward. I mean, look, we're gonna have like one of the smartest minds in the MCU as in there, and then hopefully we'll get a Tom Harlan, or if he's replaced, a smart Peter Parker, and we'll get some of the smartest men in the universe like working together in the MCU to solve bigger issues.
Yeah, I mean, all the pieces seem to be coming to play for Marvel now that they have the rights and finally can't use everything. Or I would say, and this is not a knock to the Avengers or anything like that, but these are like Fantastic Four, X-Men, Spider-Man. These were the major players.
Yep.
Before Iron Man and Cap. I mean, I'm not saying before Iron Man and Cap. Obviously, some people came before, but I mean, like
during their time.
Yeah, during this time, like these were like the major players, and now that they have basically all the pieces to the puzzle again, now you can really have this. I'm really excited to see a low level, like the low level tier street heroes, such as, not saying they're low level, but the street level heroes like Daredevil have to worry about certain, but they come together for these big chasm, this cosmic type of battles, and I'm really curious to see how they're going to adjust this Kane situation. But we can save that for the hour of what we think Marvel should do with Kane at this point, when with Jonathan Majors. So I'm curious to see how this, maybe Deadpool's gonna kill Kane off, or write Kane off, or something like that. Like, Kane doesn't exist after this. So curious to see what's gonna happen. And as always, folks, we're gonna wrap this up here. This is Justin and Sean from fantasticfour.com. If you watch this on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Helps out the algorithm a lot. If you're watching this on fantasticfour.com, what are you waiting for? Browse our website, check out our interviews, check out our coverage of Toy Fair. If you're watching this still on YouTube, check out our weekly WWE 2K show, UWL. And as always, peace, love, happiness. Later days. We'll catch you in the next one.
Also, before we go, I do promise I've been backed up. Winning and losing with randoms is making a comeback. I've been kind of playing and trying to get more footage. I've also been trying to learn from the first episode and make things a little more better and a little funnier. So we'll see what happens. But as Justin said, please check out our stuff, like, share, and subscribe. Help us out. Like, we're trying to bring you some of the best content and some fair and balanced content, not just hate for one side and hate for the other. We just, check us out.
Daniel said it best. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Yep.
Later days.
Later.